You're amazing. Good morning, everybody. It's so great to be here in person, and like I'm getting goosebumps right now. I miss this place. Oh my gosh. It's been since like last March. Wow. It is amazing. So I want to start off. I have a story. Can we put the PowerPoint up, please? All right. So this story, the author was identified as KJ, and she described what was one of the most difficult days of her life. She was driving home. She had just dropped her children off at the school. She's in the rural backcountry roads, and she was in a place, she called it terrible loneliness. She felt invisible, unseen, and she said worthless. She had tears rolling down her eyes because she was feeling suicidal. And somebody pulled onto the road, and it's this old beat-up farm truck. And the first thing she said she saw was the dog in the back, the hair, the wind. She said that dog just looked like it was in heaven. And then she saw the driver. And she said the farmer, he was looking right at me, and he had a big smile on his face. And she said, I know it sounds silly, but in that instant, that loneliness and invisibility dissipated. And that's all it took was that one smile. And it changed her life. It ended that feeling that she had. And so what I want to talk a little bit about today is how love has got to become louder than hate. And it feels like our existence depends on this. And I know that's kind of daunting, but at the same time, I feel it and I see it. I know it's happening. And when I say love has got to become louder, I'm not talking about it in a confrontational way. I'm just talking it's got to become most prevalent, the most dominant thing that we see. And it's happening, but we have to start. It's people like us that are there. We have to start by remembering that the divine is in every single person, everybody that we see. That's the divine. It's a child of the divine, and it's hard sometimes when we get caught up in the message. Now, we have a quote. So we cannot enter into peace while we are in a state of confusion. It cannot be done. We cannot manifest love when we have a mental equivalent of hate in our hearts and minds. So that's from Ernest Holmes in The Science of Mind. And we know that we want peace, especially people in this science of mind philosophy, people that are out in other churches today. There's tons of people that we want peace. We in this philosophy say we were working to create a world that works for everyone. But I think sometimes we kind of get caught up, and it's like, well, we want a world that works for everyone that thinks like I do. And we tend to forget sometimes that the divine is in everybody. And it's because that hate, sometimes it seems louder. And anytime that we get caught up in it, when we see it in the news or see other people with what we call hateful views, that hate instantly is like a shield. It cuts us off from seeing that divine within them. And it's hard. And we believe this on the one hand, that everybody's the divine, but then we get caught up in actions of what's going on. And that's where we create this confusion that Ernest Holmes was talking about, that peace cannot enter when there's confusion in the mind. So this is one of the things where we can go, and we can look to the one that they called the master teacher, Jesus, the one that embodied the Christ consciousness. He spoke up. He spoke out against injustice. He was the one that overturned the tables, the money changers. He was falsely accused and then executed because of that. But in all of his recorded things that he said, he never once condemned anybody. And he spoke out against injustice. So he would condemn the deeds, but never the doer. Never the doer. And that's something that we try to work on. It's something I try to work out at home, is how we change our language. A lot of times the kids, they want to ask, like, is that the bad guy? We're trying to shift it and shifting our own language at the same time of, well, there really are no bad guys. There's only people that have done bad things and that maybe still do. But we want to be sure, and a big part of why I do it is because I don't want them to ever think that they're bad for the mistakes that they make, my children. We all make mistakes. And we just got to remember that it's the divine within everybody. And when we label somebody, we define them, confine them, and when somebody hears often enough times that they're a bad person, they're going to start to believe it. And so we have to make sure that we ourselves keep our place to remember that the divine is in absolutely everybody. That quite often what we know is people live up to the expectations that we have of them. So I want us to start always remembering to expect the best. When people feel that, then they don't listen to that words of what they've been told all their lives of, that they're bad or they do things wrong. So now on the next slide, the reason that love has to be louder is because when we see that, we want to communicate. We know that right now it seems like we're on the verge of several crises. We heard about some of them a little bit last week from Reverend Cindy. And we need to be able to communicate and come together. But our leaders, we expect our leaders to be able to communicate, but we're not able to really even do it like in our own families. I've seen adult children that are estranged from their parents. I've seen siblings that no longer talk with each other. Facebook, we see friends that are unfriending friends. And it's because we get clouded. We get so locked into our views and we hear everything that's in opposition to what are like our fundamental beliefs, that all we see it is as a hate. And both sides, or there's more than two sides, but all sides, that's what we see the opposition as. It's gotten to where it seems like hate. And that just completely obscures us, that we cannot see that divine with anybody. So if we want to really come together and solve, we have to see that we are all one in spirit. And this is what, in the quote here, that Jesus was talking about when he said, "And the king will answer and say to them, 'Truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it for one of the least of my siblings, you did it for me.'" And sometimes we see this as, "You did it to me." And so we have to realize, like, we are all one. Literally, when we are condemning somebody, we're condemning ourselves. It's like the weakest link. Whatever we see in that part and what we do and what we allow to do to others, it's the same as doing it to God. We are that. We are that God, and everybody that we see is that God. So if we want the people that we oppose or we believe different to really hear us, we have to come at them from a place of love. And we also have to be willing to listen, because that's kind of the main thing. Just when somebody expresses themselves, as soon as you say it out loud, half of that energy seems to be going away. And so we have to be able to willing and able to listen to everybody's views and respect the human nature in them. And I don't mean this like any way of like being naive. I know we have to be street smart, but still come from love. And we can do that without expecting the worst from people. Now, on the next slide, we are going to do positive disruption. This is what I've been working on for this week. It's going to help us kind of get on the track to where we're going. The reason the hate's loud is because it gets our attention. It's what we see in the news. It's what we talk about to the people that we agree with. And it plays on our worst fears. And it feels like our survival depends on us placing the attention to always focusing on what we got to watch out for. And it's a survival mechanism. So I want everybody that hears this right now to be more of love, more of compassion, more of joy, and in everything that we do. We do it great when we come into meditation. We're in that state, and we're coming from that place. But when we get out into the world, when we go to our jobs, sometimes it's easy to forget, especially when people are coming at us that make the jobs difficult sometimes. It's hard to see that, but we need to positively disrupt everything we do by going to our job from a place more of love. When we go to the grocery store, being a place of more compassion, talking to our neighbors, more of joy. And part of doing this is to always, there's several different things, but the first thing, we got to tune out some of that hate that we see. And hate, it's a strong word, but we say dislike. It's the same thing. It's the same energy. And we see it, for me, I'm going to bring up the example of the news, and I think sometimes in Science of Mind, I'm preaching to the choir. And I've gone, like every year, I do 40 days with no news. I just cut it off, and it shifts my energy. And I know we need to stay informed, and I understand that argument that people make. Every time I've done it, I've still managed to stay informed. I found out everything that I needed to find out. I just didn't find out all the other stuff that I didn't need to find out. But what happened last year, I was in the 40 days when COVID hit, And then once we went into the lockdown, the restaurant I was working at closed. I couldn't stay off it anymore. I was like, I'm going to go on Facebook. I want to see how people I know are dealing with this. I want to see what's going on in the news. But then what's happened through COVID, and then we had the election, and then we had January 6th, I'm finding myself like scrolling like every hour. Like I don't want to miss anything. I'm scrolling through, okay, these are all ones I saw. Oh, there's a new one. And my energy, and I could feel it. My neck gets tense. It was like painful in my shoulders and neck. And so what I've done, slapped myself, and it was because of this creation that I'm doing it, is now I limit myself. Once a day, I'm allowed to look at my scroll or my news feed once a day. And amazing, like the first day that I did it, the difference was palpable. I could feel myself in a lighter state. And so that's one way of how we're going to start to let the love be bigger than the hate. So the next thing that I'm going to move into to get us into this state is I want everybody to take a minute and just imagine or remember in your head somebody at some time that made you feel special or made you feel seen or worthy maybe. Take a second and think about something in your life. Something that stands out. And I really hope that everybody's got at least one of these moments. And if you don't, talk to me, because we got to make that happen. But we all have, as far as everybody I've talked to so far, we did this exercise on this Soul Evolution Collaborative Thursday night gathering. And it was one of the most powerful things that I've experienced, because I felt really good when I shared mine. And I shared just briefly to kind of get the ball rolling. But then the next person shared it. I could feel it. I could feel the energy that they felt, that the person had made them feel special. And I think there was 8 of us on there. And so all of a sudden, like you relive that just by having that memory. You get that flood of endorphins within you. It's like experiencing that gift. But when you're witnessing it with others, we experienced 8 of those gifts. And we all like feel it, the energy it absorbs. And so that's one of the ways that we get into that state and remind ourselves that love is so much more powerful. And now the next step is to think about and imagine, we'll do the next slide, is to imagine where we can do that ourselves. And so now this is the next step. It's random acts of kindness. So it's simple things, like you can text somebody you haven't talked to in a long time. Nope, backwards. Yes, thank you. Okay, so we'll start here with that quote. So if you are evolving into a more loving, more compassionate, less violent person, then you are moving in the right direction. The direction is more important than the speed. And that's Dr. Brian Weiss. We sometimes feel like when we're spiritual seeking, like we're ready to get there, that destination. But the more we look and move towards that, we realize it's not really a destination. It's a way of being. And so the thing is just to know that we're moving in the direction that you want to move in, whatever it is. And the really cool thing is, like with love, it feels good. We know when we're moving in the right direction. And when you're kind of getting caught up in that hate and singling them out and what we got to do to correct this, it doesn't feel good. So it's pretty cool how our body has a built-in compass that shows us and reminds us of where we're going and what we're doing. So now, back into the random acts of kindness. You could text somebody you haven't seen in a while and just let them know how they make you feel. If you know the person, if the person that made you feel special that we just thought about, if that person's still alive, text them or email them, send a letter, and let them know how they made you feel. A lot of people don't even know that the lives that they've touched and what a gift that is to give it back. Now, in preparation for this, I Googled videos, random acts of kindness, and there's a lot. There's a lot out there. It's pretty fun. The first one that I found was a 20-year-old, just turned 20, wanted to do 20 random acts of kindness on their 20th birthday. And one of them, she bought a whole bunch of flowers, and she just went out in public and handed out roses to people, and they had a little note and said, you matter. You were somebody. And the looks on these faces, And she did some pennies on a little note, heads up, here's good luck. She'd hit them around in a bus station for people to kind of discover, find this penny and a note that said that they are somebody and that they're going to have a lucky day. But the one video, I saw one that said random, or it was, kind acts during times of COVID. And I clicked, okay, I'll check it. And it starts off, and this was back in March. And like right away, I saw like the first thing, and my impulse was, oh, I remember, I saw all this. So I'm just going to skip. And I'm like, dude, it's 2 minutes. Let's just watch it, give it a shot. 2 minutes. And it showed the people singing on the balconies in Italy with each other. It showed the people on the balconies in the United States that were cheering and ringing bells and yelling for the healthcare workers that were coming home. Shift change. It showed teenagers that went and did shopping for the senior citizens in the neighborhood so they were protected and didn't have to go to the store. And we had seen it all, but I kind of forgot it. And what it brought up within me was this realization, and we've heard it said, that we are in a deep period of grief right now, and we know it. But we're not really processing it the same way that we do other grieving moments. We're still kind of in limbo. And I didn't know it about myself until I watched it, and the floodgates opened. It was so moving, and it was cathartic. I felt it was amazing. And so I want to really recommend to go Google that video, Random Acts of Kindness. If you have enough courage to go for the COVID one, it's a powerful experience. And I think, we're still getting through it, but we got a lot of pent up, unknown and some fear. And it's just, we're grieving the loss of the way we're living life. It's kind of temporarily, at least on hold. It's a loss. Plus all the people that are actually grieving the loss of loved ones. It's a powerful thing that we're going through right now. So now, this is where I want to put in kind of like a little homework. I want you to think about, again, we're going to just take a second and think within, what is one random act of kindness that you can do this week? Now, I want you to really think of one, because if we just say, okay, I'll do that later, we're not going to do it most of the time. So think about something you can do this week. This could be the smallest, most simple thing. And then do it. And then I want you next Sunday to remember, it's a new week. What's my thing going to be this week? What's just one little thing that I can do just to shift something in one small way? And I know, again, I'm preaching to the choir here. These are people that I love, CSL people, because when we go anywhere, the people that I see, they treat people well. We are already showing up in the world with love and compassion for all people. But what I'm trying to say here is consider that we're at a solid 75%. We do really great, 75%. I just want to shift us to 80%. And it's just by that one little thing a week. It's something, that's why I'm calling it positive disruption. It's because it's outside of our norm, something in addition to what we're already doing. And that's how we grow, and that's how we grow the love in the world. And that's why I brought up the KJ story at the very beginning, the woman driving home. It's just to remind you how the simplest little thing has that much power to shift something in the world. Now, so we know that we have to demonstrate love the loudest. We have to make it the most visible energy on the planet. And if we start to do that, when it is shown up as the most common emotion, then we are going to be able to better communicate with one another. We're going to be able to come together better and be able to do that, to find the solutions to the challenges that we have. And through that, to do that, we have to shift our vibration. We have to get ourselves in that state of love more frequently. And we do it by remembering random acts of kindness. We do it by reminding ourselves to show up in sacred service, the way that we show up at our jobs, where we show up at everything, and do it all from that place of heart. And then we remember it by doing those random acts of kindness, or radical acts of kindness, something outside of your norm. And these last few ways are ways that we shift the world. Now, we know, and this is the saying that we hear so much, that love wins. But here's the thing, is that love only wins if love takes action. You can't score the shot if you don't take the shot. So we are the ones that we've been waiting for, everybody here in this room. So now, with our affirmation, the words in white here, this is from the Science of Mind, our Centers for Spiritual Living, the weekly affirmation. The words in white was their affirmation for today, and I allow the divine to unfold through me. But where I'm really trying to come from, this is that place, it's too passive. We know we pray and that there's something that happens in the consciousness and the one mind that changes things. But we also say you have to treat and then you move your feet. So that's why I modified it and added in. And I want us all to know it, to right now, to feel in, find that love within you, and to say this with power, with conviction, with clarity. So right now, let's all join me. If you're at home, join me in this affirmation and take it within your heart and just say, I take action and I allow the divine to unfold through me. Everybody join me in on this affirmation. I take action and allow the divine to unfold through me. And this is how we're going to change the world. So let's go within for just a moment. Just acknowledging that infinite presence, the one spirit, the one mind that is in everybody and everything. Everybody is a gift of the divine. We are all here to walk each other home, to be in that place to where we recognize the love and the one presence within each and every individual, knowing that as we do this, that we come from a place of positive disruption. We find the strength and the courage to stand out from the crowd a little bit. Everybody in this room, everybody that hears this message is drawn from that gift from within inside. The consciousness that is always inspiring through us. The words, the intuitions, the things that we are drawn to do for another, that is the Spirit working through us. That our smile to another person could be Spirit's way of answering the prayer for somebody. So I just know that everybody in this room has that love deep within and wells up and it ripples throughout every fiber of their being, and then it goes out into this world through their actions. That each and every one of us sees a brighter world. We tune out the hate and move into focusing on the love that's all around us and sharing that in bigger and bigger ways. So I know that right now, Spirit is here, Spirit is always here, Spirit is always showing up. It's just up to us to hear it, and I know that we hear it now. So in deepest gratitude for the way that this consciousness works through us, I say thank you. And I send these words away just knowing that it is already done in the mind of God. Love is already won, and it is happening each and every day. Deepest gratitude, I just let him go, and I say, and so it is. So it is. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.